Marketplace ministry is in the public square, where we encounter people from different religious traditions, ethnic heritage, linguistic backgrounds, and worldview values. Identifying cultural barriers and building communication bridges are essential to express the gospel effectively. It is our goal to train you to think critically, write excellently, and speak competently in the areas of cultural intelligence and intercultural communication. In this study of intercultural foundations, you must be aware of the terms in this presentation. They will be useful not only for this course, but for the subsequent course, Intercultural Leadership. For the purpose of our study, culture is defined as a shared set of behaviors, values, and beliefs based on a shared perspective on reality. By stereotype, we mean an imbalanced characterization of another group's cultural norms. By cultural bias, we mean the demonstration of favoritism or animosity for some cultures over other cultures. This can take the form of egocentrism, where a person acts as if he or she is the center of the universe. Ethnocentrism, where a distinct people group feels that they are the center of the universe. Or geocentrism, often demonstrated on maps in which my home is the center of the universe. And then we use the term intercultural and multicultural, which are not the same thing. Intercultural is used to recognize authentic cultural barriers, but also to find ways to build bridges between cultures. By contrast, multicultural is often used in educational circles, which seeks to find power imbalance between cultures or subcultures. Beware of labeling others with multicultural labels. Although we will be studying cluster groups of cultures, we've got to be very careful that we don't do it in such a way as to draw lines separating cultures, but in fact looking for ways to bridge between cultures, which is the reason why Pillai's book, Reaching the World in Our Own Backyard, is such an important tool for this study. In public education, multicultural focus is often not about celebrating cultural diversity, but on what is wrong with Anglo-American heritage and Anglo-American history. Fault finding rather than bridge building is normative. Separating people rather than uniting people is the result. By contrast, intercultural studies, particularly from a Christian perspective, focuses on celebrating culture while recognizing that building bridges to communicate God's gospel of grace to all the people groups is God's plan. From Genesis 12:3 to Revelation 7:9, God makes it plain that He wants to bless all people groups with an eternal relationship with Himself. When studying issues of cultural anthropology, we must define additional terms relating to a group's worldview. By shared reality, we are speaking of a group's acknowledgement of what is real and what is unreal. By shared beliefs, we're talking about a group's set of truth claims against which all other truth claims are judged to be true or false. By shared values, we mean a group's set of ethics by which all other values from all other groups are judged to be good, evil, or indifferent. By shared behaviors, this includes what is culturally normative and that which is considered deviant. This may include punishment norms, and behaviors also may include culturally creative forms such as art, music, dance, clothing, and food. By shared behaviors, we're also talking about rites of passage. In a given culture, what do they do at the birth of a child? What particular practices do they do in naming a child, or training a child, or when the child transitions to adolescence, or when that adolescent transitions to adulthood? What does this culture do and believe about marriage? What do they do when it comes to parenthood? And what do they do with the death of an individual within the culture? Do's and taboos refer to the expected behaviors and the forbidden behaviors within a society. Regarding religious pluralism, the reality of this refers to the reality of religious groups with contradictory truth claims within a given culture. By tolerance, it really depends on who is using the term, how it's to be understood. One is a voluntary acknowledgement of multiple religious groups without agreeing with the truth claims of opposing groups. Or, what seems to be the new definition of tolerance, a forced acknowledgement of multiple religious groups and a requirement that all truth claims for all groups to be accepted as equal. Edward T. Hall was an early intercultural anthropologist who recognized cultural context by using the iceberg analogy, chronemics, the relevance of time within a culture, and proxemics, the spatial relationships within cultures. Geert Hofstede is a cultural psychologist best known for cultural dimensions in national cultures and in organizational cultures. Milton J. Bennett is an expert in intercultural communications best known for his developmental model of intercultural sensitivity. Fons Trompenaars is an international marketing and negotiating consultant who recognizes the need for intercultural competency in order to work across cultures. And Craig Storty is an intercultural and international service training consultant who designed the training curriculum for the Peace Corps. After going out as a Peace Corps volunteer for 2 years, when he came back, he realized that his training was less than adequate. And so he wrote the book, which Peace Corps now uses for training their volunteers. You will want to consult your bibliography at the end of your course syllabus in order to find out more about these Christian intercultural authors. Donald McGavran is best known for his book Bridges to God and the concept of homogeneous unit principle. Ralph Winter is probably best known for his course Perspectives on the World Christian Movement and his establishment of the U.S. Center for World Missions. Paul Hebert was a missionary to India and a prolific writer who's written on cultural anthropology. 3 of his articles are of particular importance. One is Critical Contextualization, a second is The Flaw of the Excluded Middle, and a third, dealing with leadership, is entitled Banyan Trees and Banana Trees. David Hesselgrave has written 2 significant books. One is Communicating Christ Cross-Culturally, and the second is Cross-Cultural Church Planting. Don Richardson was a missionary to Irian Jaya and is probably best known for his book Peace Child. Another significant book that he has written is entitled Eternity in Their Hearts, and you'll see this in the bibliography. Dwayne Elmer has written a number of books on cross-cultural studies. The most significant, in my opinion, is Cross-Cultural Conflict, and I would encourage anyone who's interested in working across cultures, whether in the States or overseas, to get a copy of Cross-Cultural Conflict. David Livermore, we will be introduced to him. He's one of our authors of the textbooks, is an expert in cultural intelligence, and so he is the one who's going to be dealing with our cultural clusters. And Sherwood and Judith Lingenfelter have written a series of books. They were missionaries in the South Seas, and they have written 3 books on cross-cultural ministry. One is titled Ministering Cross-Culturally, a second one Teaching Cross-Culturally, and a third Leading Cross-Culturally.